When 12-year-old May discovers an old leather diary hidden beneath the floorboards of her family's barn, she has no idea what secrets it holds. The faded pages tell the story of another family who lived in her house over 40 years ago, a family that vanished without a trace during a terrible storm. As strange things begin happening around the farmhouse, objects moving on their own, cold spots appearing in rooms, and May's little brother talking to an invisible friend, the diary's warnings become impossible to ignore. What happened to the family who disappeared? Why do people keep leaving this farm? And is May's family next? The answers lie buried in the past, and time is running out. Mei Jiang wrinkled her nose at the musty smell as she stepped into the old barn behind her new home. Sunlight streamed through cracks in the wooden walls, lighting up dancing dust in the air. Moving to Willow Creek hadn't been her idea, but her parents said the countryside would be good for the family. "This place is ancient," May muttered, her footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. The barn had probably been standing for 100 years, maybe more. Most of the stalls were empty except for cobwebs and old hay. Her little brother Kai was supposed to be helping explore, but he'd gotten distracted by a family of rabbits near the garden. That left May alone to check out the barn, which was fine by her. 12 was plenty old enough to explore on her own. Something caught her eye in the far corner, a workbench covered with rusty tools. Next to it, a section of the floorboards looked different from the rest. May walked over, careful of the creaky spots. The boards weren't nailed down properly, and one edge stuck up slightly. "Weird," she said, kneeling down. She pressed on the raised edge, and the board tilted up. Using both hands, she lifted it away, revealing a small space underneath. Her heart beat faster. A secret hiding place. May reached into the dark hole and felt something smooth and leathery. She pulled it out carefully and brushed away years of dust and dirt. It was a book, no, a diary, with cracked leather binding and yellowed pages. The cover had faded gold letters that spelled journal. "May! Mom says dinner's ready!" Kai's voice called from outside. "Coming!" she shouted back, quickly tucking the diary into her jacket. She wanted to look at it alone first, before showing anyone else. After dinner, May sat cross-legged on her bed and opened the diary. On the first page, in neat handwriting, was a name. Abigail Thorne. Below it was a date. April 12th, 1978. May felt a chill run down her spine. This diary was over 40 years old. She turned to the first entry. April 12th, 1978. We moved to Willow Creek Farm today. The children are excited about all the space to run and play. Reed says this fresh start is exactly what our family needs after everything that happened in the city. The house needs work, but it has good bones, as my mother would say. I love the big kitchen windows that look out over the hills. Tonight, though, I thought I saw someone standing at the edge of the property, watching our house. When I blinked, they were gone. Probably just my imagination after a long day of unpacking. May read a few more entries, learning about Abigail Z., husband Reed, and their 3 children, Lily, Owen, and Daisy. They seemed like a normal, happy family excited about country living. But in later entries, Abigail wrote about strange things. Tools going missing, gates left open when they were sure they'd closed them, and that feeling of being watched. "May, what do you have there?" Her mom appeared in the doorway, carrying a stack of clean towels. May hesitated, then held up the diary. "I found it in the barn, under some loose floorboards." Her mom sat down beside her, taking the diary carefully. "Abigail Thorne," she read aloud. Her eyebrows went up. "The Thornes! I think the real estate agent mentioned them." "What about them?" May asked. Her mom frowned. "They owned this property back in the 1970s. From what I remember, the family disappeared under strange circumstances. It was quite the mystery around here." "Disappeared?" May's eyes widened. "Like they ran away?" "No one knows for sure. They just vanished one day." Mom flipped through a few pages of the diary. "Maybe this belonged to the mother." May's dad appeared in the doorway. "What did you find?" They explained about the diary, and Dad scratched his chin thoughtfully. "The Thorns. I read something about them when I was researching the property. They disappeared during a storm in the fall of 1978. The police never figured out what happened to them." "That's creepy," May said, taking back the diary. "The last entry I read, Abigail wrote that she felt someone watching their house at night. She was scared." Mom and Dad exchanged a look. "It's probably just coincidence," Dad said. "Old houses like this have all sorts of stories." "Can I keep reading it?" May asked. "Maybe there's a clue about what happened to them." Her parents agreed, but told her not to stay up too late. After they left, May turned back to the diary. The mystery of the missing Thorn family tugged at her mind. What had happened to them? And why had Abigail hidden her diary under the floorboards? Outside, her window, the old barn stood dark against the night sky. For a second, May thought she saw a light flicker inside, but when she blinked, it was gone. She clutched the diary tighter and began to read. April 20th, 1978. Lily loves her new room. She's covered the walls with her drawings and posters. Owen has been exploring every inch of the property and already found a stream with tadpoles. Little Daisy follows him everywhere. Reed started fixing the broken fence today. I planted tomatoes and peppers in what will be our vegetable garden. The previous owners left suddenly, according to folks in town. No one seems to know why. Ampri Twoin flipped to the next page. April 25th, 1978. Reed's old boss called today, wanted him to come back to the city. Reed said no. He's happier here, away from the stress. The children are doing well at their new school. Lily's already made friends. Owen is quieter, but seems to be adjusting. Daisy misses her old kindergarten teacher, but likes riding the bus with her siblings. May skimmed through several more entries about everyday life. Abigail baking bread, the family getting chickens, Reed teaching Owen how to fish. They seemed happy, normal. Then she found an entry from June that made her pause. June 12th, 1978. Something strange happened today. I was hanging laundry when I felt someone watching me. I turned around, expecting to see one of the children, but no one was there. Later, I noticed the garden gate was open, though I'm certain I closed it this morning. Reed says I'm being jumpy, but I can't shake this feeling. The next few entries showed Abigail trying to brush off her worries, but by July, things had changed. July 8th, 1978, Reed's hammer went missing yesterday. Today we found it in the middle of the field. Reed swears he left it in the toolbox in the barn. The children deny taking it. I keep waking up at night, thinking I hear footsteps on the porch, but when Reed checks, no one's there. May looked up from the diary and glanced at her bedroom window. The night had grown darker, the barn a shadowy shape in the distance. She pulled her blanket closer and continued reading. July 23rd, 1978. Owen says he saw a man standing by the edge of the woods yesterday. When I asked what the man looked like, Owen said he was shadowy. I checked, but found no footprints. Daisy has been talking about a new friend, though she can't tell me their name. It's probably just an imaginary friend, but after what Owen said, I feel uneasy. May read through more entries. The Thorne family had moved to Willow Creek for a fresh start after Reed lost his job in the city. They'd been excited about raising chickens and growing their own food. But around 2 months after moving in, things began to change. Tools went missing. Strange noises echoed through the house at night. The children started having nightmares, and Abigail couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. A soft tap on her door made May jump. "May, you still awake?" Her mom peeked in. "Yeah," May said, quickly closing the diary. Mom sat on the edge of her bed. "That diary's got you pretty. Interested, huh?" "The Thornes were a normal family," May said, "but weird things started happening to them." "Remember, diaries can be creative writing too," Mom said gently. "People sometimes make things up or exaggerate." "But they really did disappear," May insisted. "Dad said so." Mom nodded slowly. "That's true. But there could be a simple explanation. Maybe they planned to leave and just didn't tell anyone." "Without their car?" "Dad said it was still in the driveway when they vanished." Mom sighed. "Try not to get too caught up in it, okay? It's getting late. School tomorrow." After Mom left, May placed the diary on her nightstand. She turned off her lamp and tried to sleep, but her mind kept returning to Abigail's words. "I keep waking up at night, thinking I hear footsteps." A sound outside made her eyes snap open. It was faint, but she was sure she'd heard it. Footsteps, crunching on gravel near the barn. May crept to her window and peered out. The barn door swung, gently in the night breeze. Had it been open before? She couldn't remember. Something moved in the shadows beside the barn. A darker shape against the darkness. May held her breath, straining to see. When lightning flashed in the distance, the shape was gone, leaving only the empty yard. May crawled back into bed, pulling the covers up to her chin. It was just her imagination, she told herself. The diary stories were making her jumpy, but as she drifted off to sleep, one thought lingered. What if the same thing that happened to the Thornes was happening to her family now? In her dreams, a girl in old-fashioned clothes stood at the foot of her bed, trying to speak. But no sound came out, just a warning in her sad eyes. May woke with a start, sunlight streaming through her curtains. She remembered the dream clearly. The Eicher girl had been wearing a dress with small flowers on it, her hair in 2 braids. She'd looked about 15, with a small mole near her right eye. "Breakfast, kids!" Dad called from downstairs. At school, May couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the diary and the Thorne family. During lunch, she sat alone at a table near the window, flipping through the diary again. "That looks old," said a voice. May looked up to see a boy about her age with curly red hair and freckles standing next to her table, lunch tray in hand. "It is," she said, closing the diary quickly. "From 1978. Cool. I'm Tanner Wilson," he said, sitting down across from her. "You're new, right? The family that moved into the old Thorne place?" May's eyes widened. "You know about the Thornes?" Tanner shrugged. "Everyone who's lived here a while knows that story. My grandma's lived in Willow Creek her whole life. She remembers when they disappeared?" "Really?" May leaned forward. "This diary belonged to Abigail Thorne. I found it hidden in our barn." Tanner's eyes grew big. "No way! Have you read it? Does it say what happened to them?" "I'm still reading it," May said, "but it talks about weird things happening at the farm." She hesitated, then added, "Last night, I thought I saw something moving by our barn." Instead of laughing, Tanner looked serious. "My grandma might know more about the Thornes. Want to visit her after school? She loves telling old stories." May texted her mom for permission, And after school, she and Tanner walked to a small blue house 3 blocks from the school. Mrs. Wilson was working in her garden, her gray hair tucked under a wide-brimmed hat. "Grandma, this is May," Tanner said. She moved into the old Thorne place and found Abigail Thorne's diary. Mrs. Wilson froze, her gardening trowel halfway to the soil. She stood slowly, brushing dirt from her hands. "Come inside, dears. I think we need some lemonade for this conversation." In the kitchen, Mrs. Wilson poured 3 glasses of lemonade and sat across from them at a round wooden table. Her hands trembled slightly as May placed the diary on the table. "May I?" she asked, reaching for it. May nodded, and Mrs. Wilson carefully opened the diary, turning the pages with gentle fingers. "I remember when they came to town," she said softly. "Such a nice family. Abigail would bring her homemade bread to the church bake sales. The children were well behaved, especially little Daisy with her pigtails." "What happened to them?" May asked. Mrs. Wilson's face grew troubled. "They disappeared during a terrible storm in late October 1978. Thunder and lightning, like you wouldn't believe. When the storm cleared, the Thornes were gone." "Just gone?" Tanner asked. "Their car was still in the driveway. Nothing seemed to be missing from the house. Dinner was half prepared in the kitchen." Mrs. Wilson shook her head. "The police searched for weeks. Some thought they planned their disappearance, but why leave the car? Others suspected—" Her voice trailed off. "Suspected what?" May prompted. "Something more sinister," Mrs. Wilson said quietly. "Reed had been asking questions around town about old legends, local history. He was particularly interested in the original owner of your farm." "Who was that?" May asked. "A man named Elias Blackwood. He built that house in the 1880s. There were rumors about him. Nothing proven, of course." "What kind of rumors?" Tanner asked eagerly. Mrs. Wilson hesitated. "That's enough ghost stories for today. Your parents wouldn't thank me for giving you nightmares." She smiled, but her eyes remained serious. "Be careful with that diary, dear. Sometimes the past is best left buried." As they left, May felt confused. "She didn't really answer our questions." "Grandma gets like that sometimes," Tanner said. "But I've heard stories about Blackwood. Kids at school say he practiced black magic and disappeared one night, leaving behind only a bloody handprint on his bedroom wall." "That sounds like a made-up story," May said, though she felt a chill. When May got home, her dad was sorting through papers at the kitchen table. "Hey, Dad, did you know our house used to belong to someone named Elias Blackwood?" Dad looked up, surprised. "Actually, yes. I found some information at the library today." He showed her old newspaper clippings he'd printed. "I got curious after you found that diary." One headline caught May's eye. "Thorne family still missing after 3 weeks." "The interesting thing," Dad continued, "is that the family who owned this place before the Thornes left suddenly too. They'd only been here a year. Sold the property for much less than they paid." "Why?" May asked. Dad shrugged. "The article doesn't say, but I found property records going back decades. No family has stayed here longer than 2 years since the 1940s, except for Blackwood, who lived here for nearly 20 years. That night, May continued reading the diary. Abigail's entries grew more concerned. She wrote about Daisy talking to an invisible friend named Elias, and Reed finding strange symbols carved into trees. As May read, the wind picked up outside, branches scratching against her window. She glanced out and froze. For just a moment, she thought she saw a face peering back at her. A teenage girl with braided hair and frightened eyes. Then lightning flashed, and the face was gone. May jumped back from the window, her heart pounding. She told herself it was just a trick of the light, the storm playing with her imagination. But the face had looked so real, so sad. She returned to her bed and opened the diary again, reading by flashlight as thunder rumbled outside. August 14th, 1978. Reed went to the town hall today to research the history of our farm. He found documents showing it was originally owned by a man named Elias Blackwood in the 1880s. According to local gossip, Blackwood was suspected of practicing dark rituals. The townspeople began investigating him, but before they could, he vanished without a trace. The strangest part is what happened afterward. No family has stayed on this property longer than 2 years since Blackwood disappeared. They all left suddenly, selling for less than they paid. What did we get ourselves into? May sat up straight. This matched exactly what her dad had discovered. She flipped to the next page. August 20th, 1978. Daisy has been talking about her friend, Elias. She says he's sad because he lost something important and needs help finding it. When I asked her to describe him, she said he's old and wears funny clothes. I've never mentioned Blackwood to the children. How could she know that name? August 28th, 1978. Reed found strange symbols carved into trees at the edge of our property. They look old, but some appear fresher, as if recently retraced. Owen is having terrible nightmares. He woke up screaming last night, saying someone was standing in the corner of his room, watching him. Lily swears she heard whispering coming from the walls. I'm starting to wonder if we should leave. But Reed says we've put too much money into this place to walk away now. As May read on, she felt a growing knot in her stomach. The diary entries matched things happening in her own home. Just yesterday, Kai had mentioned a new friend, an old man who wears a funny hat, and this morning, May had found her backpack in the kitchen when she was sure she'd left it in her room. The storm outside grew stronger. Rain pelted her window like tiny fists. May was about to turn the page when her bedroom door creaked open. May? It was Kai, his small figure silhouetted in the doorway. I'm scared of the storm. Come here, she said, making room on her bed. As Kai snuggled beside her, she asked casually, Have you seen your friend with the funny hat again? Kai nodded against her shoulder. He was in the barn today. He told me there's something important hidden there. May felt a chill that had nothing to do with the storm. What's hidden? He didn't say, but he said our family could help him find it. Kai yawned. He said the other families couldn't help, but we can. Before May could ask more, the lights flickered and went out. The house plunged into darkness, except for her flashlight. Power's out, Dad called from downstairs. Everyone stay where you are. I'll get the candles. May held Kai close as they waited. In the beam of her flashlight, she saw something strange. A sudden drop in temperature made their breath visible in the air. The flashlight flickered. My friend is here, Kai whispered. May's flashlight died. In the pitch-black room, May could see nothing, but she felt a presence, something cold and ancient filling the corner of her room. She heard what sounded like whispering, too faint to make out words. Kai, she whispered, do you see anything? The man with the hat, Kai said calmly. He's watching us. The bedroom door opened, and Dad appeared with a candle. The warm light pushed back the darkness, and May could see the room was empty except for them. You kids okay? Dad asked. Fine, May said, her voice shaking slightly. Just cold. Dad frowned. That's strange. It is colder in here than the rest of the house. The next morning, May texted Tanner everything that had happened, including what she'd read in the diary about Blackwood. "My grandma definitely knows more than she told us," Tanner texted back. "Meet me at the library after school. I found oldie newspapers mentioning Blackwood." At the library, Tanner showed her yellowed newspapers on microfilm. One from 1892 mentioned Elias Blackwood's disappearance. Another article caught May's eye. "Blackwood's research into ancient artifact questioned by scholars." "He was looking for something," Tanner whispered. "Something people thought was hidden on your property." "Kai said Blackwood told him there's something important hidden in our barn," May said. Tanner's eyes widened. "Your brother's seen him too?" May nodded. "And last night, I think I felt something in my room. The air got cold, and I heard whispering." "We need to figure out what Blackwood was looking for," Tanner said. "Maybe that's why no family can stay there long. Maybe that's what happened to the Thorns." When May got home, she found Mom in the kitchen, looking worried. "Everything okay?" May asked. "Just strange things happening," Mom said. "I put my car keys on the counter this morning, but found them in the bathroom. And Kai's been talking about his imaginary friend constantly." "Elias?" May asked. Mom looked surprised. "Yes. How did you know?" May hesitated. Should she tell her parents about what she was discovering? Would they even believe her? Before she could decide, the lights flickered again. Outside, dark clouds gathered, though the weather report had predicted clear skies. Another storm was coming. May looked out the kitchen window at the darkening sky. It reminded her too much of what Abigail had written about the night the Thorne family disappeared. During a terrible storm. "Mom," May said, making a decision. "There's something I need to tell you and Dad about the diary." That evening, the whole family gathered in the living room as May explained everything. The diary entries, the history of Elias Blackwood, the pattern of families leaving, and the strange similarities between what happened to the Thorns and what was happening to them now. "And Kai's invisible friend has the same name as the man who built this house," she finished. "Elias." Her parents exchanged worried glances. "Honey," Dad said gently, "old houses make strange noises. Things get misplaced, and children often have imaginary friends." "But it all matches what happened to the Thorns," May insisted. "Let me see the diary," Dad said. May handed it to him, and he flipped through the pages, reading Abigail's increasingly worried entries. September 15, 1978. "We visited Martha Kimball, today an elderly woman who lives on the outskirts of town. Reed heard she knows more about local history than anyone. Martha was reluctant to talk at first, but eventually told us about Blackwood. According to her, he was searching for something he believed was hidden on our property, an artifact of great power. She said Blackwood became obsessed with finding it, driving away his wife and children. When I asked what happened to him, Martha just shook her head and said, 'Not all who vanish are gone.'" Dad's face grew serious as he read. "This is disturbing, but it doesn't prove anything supernatural is happening." "Martha Kimball," Mom said suddenly. "That name sounds familiar. Isn't there a Kimball Road near the edge of town?" Dad nodded. "I think her house is still there. It's abandoned now, though." "I want to see it," May said. "Absolutely not," Dad replied. "If there's any truth to this, we should contact the Historical Society, maybe even the police." "Can I keep reading the diary?" May asked. Her parents agreed, but warned her not to get too caught up in it. Later that night, May continued reading, following Abigail's journey deeper into the mystery. September 22, 1978. Reed found something today, a hidden cellar beneath the barn that wasn't in the house plans. We had to pry up floorboards to access it. The space below was small, with strange markings carved into the dirt walls. In the center was an old wooden box containing a map of our property. There's an X marked in the center of a circle of trees behind the barn. Reed is determined to dig there tomorrow. May gasped. The circle of trees still existed. She'd seen it from her bedroom window. 7 tall oaks forming a perfect circle about 50 yards behind the barn. The next day at school, she told Tanner everything. "We need to check out that circle of trees," he said immediately. "My parents would never let me dig there," May said. "Then we don't tell them," Tanner replied. "I'll come over after school. We'll say we're doing homework." That afternoon, May and Tanner snuck out to the circle of trees with a shovel from the garage. The trees were massive, their branches creating a canopy that blocked most of the sunlight. The ground inside the circle was bare. No grass grew there. "Where should we start digging?" Tanner asked. "The center, I guess," May said. They had barely broken ground when they heard a shout. "What are you doing?" It was Dad, walking quickly toward them from the house. "Busted." May and Tanner explained about the map in the diary and the X marked in the circle of trees. Dad's face softened. "May, I understand you're curious, but digging holes all over the property isn't the answer." "But Dad—" "No buts. Inside, both of you." That night, May couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about the circle of trees and what might be buried there. Finally, she drifted off, only to dream of a little girl in old-fashioned clothes. Daisy Thorne, she somehow knew, leading her to the circle of trees and pointing frantically at the ground, her face filled with fear. May woke with a start. Moonlight streamed through her window, illuminating the diary on her nightstand. She reached for it and turned to where she had left off. September 28, 1978. Reed has been digging in the circle of trees for days now. He's becoming obsessed, just like Blackwood before him. Last night, I found him in the barn at midnight, reading through Blackwood's old journal that we found buried near the trees. The writings are disturbing, rituals and symbols I don't understand. When I tried to take the journal from him, Reed's eyes looked different, empty somehow. He said he's close to finding what Blackwood sought. I'm frightened, not of what might be buried on our property, but of what's happening to my husband. October 5th, 1978. Daisy's behavior is getting worse. She sleepwalks toward the barn every night. I find her drawing pictures of a shadow man and singing songs in a language I've never heard. Owen has terrible nightmares and wakes up screaming about eyes watching him from the walls. Lily saw a figure standing at the foot of her bed last night. I want to leave, but Reed refuses. He barely sleeps, spending hours in the barn with Blackwood's journal. When he does come to bed, he whispers names in his sleep, names of the families who lived here before us. I'm going to take the children and go to my sister's tomorrow while Reed is in town. I've already packed our bags. The diary entries were becoming more frantic. Only a few pages remained. May flipped to the final entry, dated October 31st, 1978, the day the Thornes disappeared. October 31st, 1978. Something's in the house. I can hear it moving upstairs where the children are sleeping. Reed isn't back yet. I need to... The entry ended abruptly, mid-sentence. May stared at the unfinished page, a chill running through her. What had interrupted Abigail? What had happened to the Thorne family that night? She knew one thing for certain. She needed to show her parents the final entries. They needed to understand the danger before it was too late. Outside, the wind began to howl around the old farmhouse, and the first drops of rain hit her window. May grabbed the diary and ran downstairs. Her parents were in the living room. Dad, reading reports for work while Mom scrolled through her phone. "You need to see this," May said, thrusting the diary at them. "The last entries." Dad took the diary, and Mom leaned in to read over his shoulder. Their faces grew more concerned with each page. "This is disturbing," Dad said when they finished. "Do you believe me now?" May asked. "Something bad happened to the Thorns, and it's starting to happen to us too." Mom and Dad exchanged looks. "We can't ignore the similarities," Mom admitted. Kai's invisible friend named Elias. Things moving around the house, the strange cold spots. "I'll call Detective Martinez tomorrow," Dad said. "He helped us when we were researching the property. This diary might be important evidence in the Thorn case, even after all these years." A loud crash from upstairs made them all jump. "Kai!" Mom called, running toward the stairs. May and Dad followed. They found Kai's bedroom window shattered, rain and wind gusting in. Kai stood in the middle of the room, eyes wide, but eerily calm. "Kai, are you okay?" Mom rushed to him, checking for injuries. "Elias is angry," Kai said in a flat voice. "He says we're taking too long." "Taking too long for what?" Dad asked, covering the broken window with a spare blanket. "To find it," Kai replied. "The thing he lost. The thing everyone looks for." Lightning flashed, followed immediately by thunder that shook the house. The power flickered and went out. "I'll get flashlights," Dad said, leaving the room. Mom pulled Kai close. "It was just the storm that broke the window, sweetie. Everything's okay." But May knew better. Nothing about this was okay. Later that night, with the storm still raging, May sat on her bed with a flashlight, reading the diary again. There had to be more clues about what happened to the Thorns, about what Blackwood had been seeking. A soft knock came at her door. It was Mom. "Can't sleep?" she asked, sitting beside May. May shook her head. "I keep thinking about Abigail's last entry. Something was in the house with her." Mom squeezed her hand. "We're taking this seriously now, May. Your dad called Detective Martinez already. He's coming first thing tomorrow." "What if tomorrow is too late?" May whispered. Mom had no answer for that. After Mom left, May tried to sleep, but couldn't. The storm grew worse, lightning flashing continuously. Around midnight, she heard a sound in the hallway. Soft footsteps padding past her door. May peeked out and saw Kai walking slowly toward the stairs, his movements stiff and unnatural. "Kai?" she whispered, but he didn't respond. She followed him downstairs and watched in horror as he walked straight to the front door, unlocked it, and stepped outside into the raging storm. "Kai!" May shouted, running after him. Rain soaked her immediately as she chased her brother across the yard. He was heading toward the barn, moving with purpose despite the howling wind and rain. "Mom! Dad!" May screamed, but her voice was lost in the storm. She caught up to Kai at the barn door. He stood there, face blank, rain streaming down his cheeks like tears. "Kai, what are you doing?" She shook his shoulders. Slowly, his eyes focused on her. "May? Why am I outside?" Before she could answer, her parents came running through the rain, flashlights bobbing. "What's happening?" Dad demanded, scooping up Kai. "He was sleepwalking," May explained, shivering. "Heading for the barn." They hurried back to the house. Once inside, Mom wrapped Kai in towels, while Dad checked the doors and windows. "I don't remember getting out of bed," Kai said, trembling. "I was dreaming about helping Elias find something. He said it was in the circle of trees." May's parents looked at each other, fear evident in their eyes. "That's it," Dad said firmly. "We're staying at a hotel until we figure this out." "I agree," Mom said. "Let's pack some things and go now, tonight." As they gathered essentials, the storm seemed to intensify, as if angry at their decision to leave. The wind screamed around the house, and the rain hammered against the roof like fists. May ran to her room and stuffed clothes into a backpack. She grabbed the diary last, unwilling to leave it behind. When she returned downstairs, her parents were waiting by the front door with Kai. Dad had the car keys in hand. "Ready?" he asked. May nodded, clutching the diary to her chest. Dad opened the front door and froze. Outside, surrounding the house in a perfect circle, was a wall of fog so thick and white it glowed in the darkness. Beyond it, nothing was visible, not even the barn or the driveway. "What is that?" Mom whispered. Dad stepped onto the porch and immediately jumped back. "I can't see anything through it, not even with the flashlight." They tried the back door with the same result. The strange fog encircled the entire property, cutting them off completely. "It's happening again," May said, her voice small. "Just like with the Thorns. They were trapped." Mom pulled Kai close, while Dad tried calling 911, but his phone showed no signal. Mom's phone was the same. "What do we do now?" May asked, her voice shaking. Dad took a deep breath. "We stay calm. This fog has to clear eventually. Let's wait it out." They gathered in the living room, away from windows. Dad lit candles, while Mom made hot chocolate on the gas stove. No one mentioned the strange fog outside or how it seemed to glow with its own light. "I'm calling Detective Martinez first thing in the morning," Dad said. "We need to know everything about what happened to the Thorns." That night, none of them slept well. Me kept hearing scratching sounds from the walls, like someone or something trying to get in. When morning finally came, the fog remained, thick and impenetrable. Dad's call to Detective Martinez went through, and within an hour, the detective's TTD car lights could be seen as faint glows through the fog. Somehow, he could get in, though they couldn't get out. Detective Martinez was a tall man with serious eyes and a kind smile. He examined the diary carefully, especially the final entries. "We always suspected foul play in the Thorn disappearance," he said. "But there was never any evidence. This diary might be the break we've been waiting for." "What about the fog?" Mom asked. "We can't leave the property." The detective looked confused. "Fog? It's perfectly clear outside." They took him to the front door. To their astonishment, the fog was gone. Sunlight streamed across the yard, and birds chirped in the trees. "But it was there," May insisted. "All night and this morning." "I believe you," Detective Martinez said gently. "Strange things happen in this town. I'll take the diary as evidence, if that's okay." May reluctantly handed it over. "And I suggest your family stays somewhere else until we figure this out," he added. Dad nodded. "We were planning to." After the detective left, they packed more thoroughly. May texted Tanner about everything that had happened. 10 minutes later, Tanner called. "May, my grandma just told me something important. There's a pattern to the disappearances at your farm. They happen every 40 years during a special alignment of stars that's happening again in 3 days. 3 days?" May felt sick. "Tanner, we're leaving today. My parents are packing right now." "That's good. Be careful, May." They were loading the car when Dad received a call from work about an emergency. He'd have to go in for a few hours before they could leave town. "We'll leave as soon as I get back," he promised. "Just stay inside and keep the doors locked." While Dad was gone, May and Mom finished packing. Kai seemed better in the daylight, playing with his toys as if nothing strange had happened. But an hour after Dad left, Kai disappeared. "Kai?" Mom called, checking the rooms. "This isn't funny." May looked out the kitchen window and gasped. Kai was in the circle of trees, on his knees, digging with his bare hands. "Mom!" May shouted. "He's outside!" They ran across the yard. When they reached Kai, his hands were caked with dirt, his fingernails broken and bleeding. "Kai, stop!" Mom pulled him up, but his eyes were unfocused, staring through her. "I have to find it," he said in a strange voice. "Elias needs it." They brought him inside and cleaned his hands. Gradually, his eyes cleared, and he looked around in confusion. "Why are my hands dirty?" he asked. "You don't remember going outside?" May asked. Kai shook his head. When Dad returned, they told him what had happened. The decision was made. They would leave immediately, not even stopping to finish packing. But that night, as they ate a quick dinner before departing, May woke suddenly from a nap to find muddy footprints leading from the front door through the house. They were small, like a child's, but not Kai's. May followed them upstairs to Kai's room. Her brother sat upright in bed, staring at the wall. But it wasn't Kai looking out through his eyes. "They're still here," he said in a hollow voice. "All of them. They can't leave until it's found." "Who?" May asked, her heart pounding. "Who's still here?" "The others," Kai replied. "The Thorns, the Millers, the Carters. All the families. They're trapped here, just like Elias." May ran to get her parents. When they returned to Kai's room, he was normal again, confused by their fear. As they hurried to finish loading the car, the sun began to set. Darkness fell quickly, unnaturally, and with it came the fog again, rolling across the yard like a living thing. Dad turned the key in the ignition, but the car wouldn't start. Again and again he tried, but the engine wouldn't catch. "This is impossible," he muttered. "I just had it serviced last week." They got out of the car and looked around. The fog had thickened, swallowing the driveway. They couldn't even see the road anymore. "Back inside," Dad said grimly. "We'll try again in the morning." That night, the house came alive with sounds, footsteps on the stairs, whispers in the walls, the creak of doors opening and closing. May lay awake, listening, remembering Abigail's final diary entry. "Something's in the house. I can hear it moving upstairs where the children are sleeping." In the morning, Mom discovered their car keys were missing. They searched everywhere but couldn't find them. "What's happening to us?" Mom whispered, fear in her eyes. "I think I know," May said quietly, "and I know what we need to do to stop it." Her parents and Kai gathered around the kitchen table as May explained. According to the diary, Reed Thorne found something buried in the circle of trees. Blackwood was looking for it too. I think we need to find whatever it is and, I don't know, destroy it or return it or something? Dig up the circle of trees? Dad frowned. Based on a child sleepwalking and an old diary? Just then, the doorbell rang. Everyone jumped. "Who could that be?" Mom whispered. Dad cautiously opened the door to find Tanner on the porch, his bike tossed on the lawn behind him. "Tanner?" May rushed forward. "How did you get through the fog?" "What fog?" Tanner looked confused. "I came to help. My grandma told me more about Blackwood." Inside, Tanner explained that his grandmother had finally revealed the whole story. Blackwood wasn't just looking for any artifact, Tanner said. He was performing a ritual to bind people to this land. Grandma said he stole personal items from each family who lived here, things with strong emotional connections, and used them in his ritual. "To do what?" Dad asked skeptically. "To keep himself from passing on," Tanner said. "He was afraid of death." The ritual was supposed to give him more life force or something, but it went wrong, trapping him between worlds. Now he keeps trying to complete it, using each new family that moves in. "This is crazy," Dad muttered, but his eyes were worried. "Think about it," May said. "The thorns disappeared during an important astronomical alignment that happens every 40 years. That same alignment happens in 3 days. We're running out of time." A loud crash from upstairs made them all jump. They ran up to find Kai's room in chaos. Drawers pulled out, clothes scattered everywhere. "I didn't do this!" Kai cried, clinging to Mom. The temperature in the room plummeted. Their breath fogged the air. And then, faintly at first, but growing stronger, they saw them. Shadowy figures forming in the corners of the room. A man, a woman, and 3 children dressed in clothes from different time periods. Among them were the thorns, just as May had imagined them from the diary. Abigail's face was filled with sadness as she stared at May's family. Dad pulled them all back into the hallway. "We're getting out of here now. Through the fog, if we have to." But as they ran downstairs, more figures appeared, blocking their path. Transparent hands reached toward them. Mouths moved in silent pleas. "They're asking for help," May realized. "They're trapped here." "What do we do?" Mom asked, her voice shaking. "We dig," May said firmly. "In the circle of trees, now." Dad grabbed shovels from the garage while Mom found flashlights. Together, the 5 of them hurried to the circle of trees. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the yard. The ghostly figures followed, watching silently. "Here," May said, pointing to the center of the circle. "This is where it would be." They began to dig, taking turns with the shovels. The ground was hard, but they worked quickly, driven by fear and determination. The ghostly figures gathered closer, forming a ring around them. "Look!" Tanner shouted, after 20 minutes of digging. His shovel had hit something solid. They dropped to their knees, clearing dirt with their hands. A small metal box emerged, its surface covered in strange symbols. Dad pried it open carefully. Inside was not a magical artifact, but a collection of small personal items. A child's drawing, a wedding ring, a pocket watch, family photographs, a hair ribbon, and other trinkets. "These must belong to the families," Mom said. "Things Blackwood stole for his ritual." Beneath the items was an old leather-bound journal, its pages yellow with age. Dad opened it carefully, revealing handwritten notes and diagrams, Blackwood's ritual instructions. "This is what Reed found," May said. "This is what changed him." As they examined the items, the fog grew thicker around them, swirling like a living thing. The ghostly figures moved closer, their features becoming clearer. May recognized Abigail Thorne, her face just like in May's dreams. Next to her stood Reed, his eyes clear again, no longer under Blackwood's influence. Behind them were their children, Lily with her braided hair, Owen looking solemn, and little Daisy clutching a teddy bear. The spirits couldn't speak, but they pointed urgently at the journal and the personal items. "I think I understand," Mayo said. "We need to destroy the journal and return these things to break the spell." Dad didn't argue. He took out his lighter and held it to the corner of the journal. The pages caught quickly, flames spreading across Blackwood's writings. As the journal burned, the fog began to lift. The figures became more solid, more real. They gathered around the box, each reaching for their personal item. The ghost of Abigail. Thorne approached May and placed something in her hand, a torn diary page. May unfolded it carefully and read, "Reed found Blackwood's journal and became obsessed. He didn't realize he was continuing the ritual, planning to use our family. I tried to stop him by hiding the box, but it was too late. That night, he completed enough of the ritual to trap us between worlds, neither alive nor dead, bound to the property like all the others before us. Blackwood's spirit has been using each family, trying to finish what he started. Break the cycle. Free us all. We need to burn the journal completely, May said, and let them take back what's theirs. As the last page of the journal turned to ash, the spirits became brighter. One by one, they claimed their possessions from the box. With each item returned, a spirit would smile in gratitude before fading away. The Thorne family was last. They stood together, holding hands, finally at peace. Abigail mouthed, "Thank you," before they disappeared completely. The fog lifted entirely, revealing a bright morning. The curse was broken, and the property was finally free of its dark history. "It's over," Dad said, putting his arm around Mom's shoulders. A week later, Detective Martinez was amazed by their story. Though skeptical, he couldn't explain the personal items they'd found or how they matched descriptions from missing persons reports dating back decades. May's family decided to stay and make the farm their home, knowing they'd brought peace to those who came before. In the freshly turned soil where they'd dug up the box, green shoots had already begun to sprout, new life where there had only been shadows. What no one noticed was the small, weathered stone half buried at the edge of the property line, with Elias Blackwood's initials and a symbol carved into it, still intact, still watching, and still waiting for the next cycle to begin. That was the end of this story. Where are you listening from? If you enjoyed this tale of mystery and family secrets, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like this one. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family to spread kindness and awareness. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.